USA, Countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Hi, this is Countyfairgrounds. I have Charlie-the-Clown on the line with me today, and he's going to tell me what it's like to be a clown and a stiltwalker. Hi, Charlie.
Well, hey, how's it going? I appreciate the call.
Well, it's going busy. That's the time of year it is. So,
it's the fair industry getting back in the business, and the clowning business is starting to pick up as well. So, it's been a pandemic kind of a year, but I'm glad that we seem to be on the other side of this to some degree.
So, how long have you been a clown, Charlie?
I started clowning in the USA in 1985. That's when I came over from South Africa. I had actually worked a little bit as a clown and as an entertainer and a circus artist before that, from South Africa and in Europe for a year as well. But I started working as a clown in Las Vegas in 1985. Of course, Vegas was the perfect place to land because of the juggling comedy act that I was doing with an American friend of mine. And then I found out that working for any casino, working a big act, was really a lot of work and not necessarily financially as viable as working a few birthday parties on the weekend. And as much as the ego was involved, when being in the big stage show in Vegas, it wasn't really financially rewarding as much. And of course, they owned your time. So, I started focusing more on doing birthday parties and special events as a clown in the 80s, and that has stood me in good stead over the number of years.
I'm curious. Not everybody becomes a clown. Have you ever done anything else?
Well, when I left high school, I started, I went to the Army for 2 years. I didn't have a choice. In South Africa, it was mandatory. You left high school, you got drafted. And I got in the entertainment unit eventually after basic training, so that was a good grounding for my entertainment business. But then when I finished the Army, I went into dinner service salesman with my brother. My brother used to go and knock on office building doors and walk in there and stand up on a table and get everyone's attention. And then before getting thrown out by the manager, whoever was in charge, he would tell people he would meet them in the break room at lunchtime. And then some of them would come over and he'd sell them sets of dinner service. And he taught me the ins and outs of that, and I was actually pretty good at it because I wasn't embarrassed to stand up in front of a large group and make an announcement. But there were a few times that I got thrown out of office buildings because, of course, they don't really want you in there, selling something. So, yes, I did work and then, of course, when I came to Vegas and things were a little slow before we got hired as a juggling team, I worked for Dominos Pizza, and I was a pizza delivery guy. And so I went out there, and back in those days, of course, it was about $1 you got tipped for each pizza you delivered. The actual salary from the pizza place wasn't much. And then the pizza company was having a promotion where they wanted to promote a special day, and the manager said to me, "Hey, listen, I know you walk on stilts. Is there any way you can come out in front of the store and be on stilts, dressed up in a Domino's pizza outfit? It'll probably get a lot of attention for our store." So I said absolutely, and I made more money in that couple of hours that I was on stilts as an entertainer, because I charged them what entertainers charge, and that was the end of my pizza delivery career. I then became the stilt guy who was doing promotions for different companies.
So how long did you work for Domino's doing that?
Probably about 3 or 4 months. Not long at all, really. Oh, and then something else I did was I actually went into I worked in a boiler room, they call them, one of those discount catalog Club of America, where they would sell you this catalog, and basically you had to get somebody's credit card information or their social security number, and that would finalize the sale. And eventually the police turned up after I left the company and shut the whole company down. It was an illegal boiler room, but I was their best salesman. And I think partly because I have a bit of an accent. People loved the accent, so they'd actually give me the time of day. Whereas most people that called them up, they didn't like the way they sounded.
You've got quite a history, Mr. Charlie.
Very fortunate.
Are you a married guy?
Yes, I am married, yeah.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't have any of my own kids, and that's probably part of the reason why I'm such a clown that enjoys kids, because I can give them back, you know. I can experience them and enjoy them, and then they end up staying there. But no, I don't have any of my own kids. No, I often thought I would have made a pretty good dad, but it wasn't in the cards. And I don't think there's any plans because I'm 61 now.
Okay, so I always ask my interviewees, what has been some of your worst experiences that you remember, and then some of the best?
Well, you know, some of the best experiences, without a doubt, when I first left the Army and got into a circus, I ended up being in a triple-wide flying trapeze act with 11 people in it. And on the 18th of July, back in those days, I'm talking about 1979, 1980, I think it was 1980, when I landed in the flying trapeze neck at the end of the act, I was actually the first person to come down because I was in the catch bar. And when I hit the act, normally, you know, I would jump to the side of the net and roll out, and then the next person would land in the net. And the music stopped, everything went silent, and the spotlight just went straight on me. And the ringmaster went out there and said, "We just want to wish Charlie a happy birthday." So there I was in the middle of Sicily in front of about 7,000 people, because it was a huge tent that we were in, and everybody sang me happy birthday, you know, which was quite a great experience.
Yeah.
It was very cool. And then, of course, I've had challenges. You know, I've had parties where I arrive as a birthday party clown, and, you know, I'll arrive at the house, and there was one year I arrived at this party, and shame there were these two little kids, and they were a little on the larger side, and the father kept saying, "Well, didn't you invite your friends? You didn't invite your friends." And I guess none of the friends showed up. And so they sat there, just the two of them, and mom and dad. And the parents were kind of really demanding that the kids were really to blame, that nobody had come to their party. And I did the clown show, and I did it. And then they actually brought popcorn from the kitchen, and they sat there like they were watching TV, and they ate their popcorn while they were watching me do my highly interactive clown show, which, of course, they weren't reacting to at all. You know, they were watching me like a TV. And and I thought it was I mean, I did the best I could, and of course they ended up thanking me, and I think they even gave me a gratuity at the end, you know, but it was pretty much a nightmare for a performer, because there I was, you know, usually you have 15 to 20, you know, loud, boisterous kids, and here they were just two kids that just sat there and watched me like a TV. And then I didn't remember who they were, and I did another party the next year, and when the popcorn came out, I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, it's the same family. And so I was invited back the next year, and it was a similar situation, but I think the neighbors came or something. So there were a few more people at the party. But that was one of the situations where I felt more sorry for them than anything else, you know, but it wasn't the easiest performing situation. And then, of course, I go out on the fair circuit. And I used to spend a lot of months out on the road, working county and state fairs. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, I actually had an agent who booked me almost exclusively on the fair circuit, and I would work, you know, a lot of these state fairs that were sometimes up to 18 days long. And I would go to the Michigan State Fair and the Wisconsin State Fair. I think I did that one for 21 years. I'd go down to the Florida State Fair in Tampa. I did the South Carolina State Fair. Did a lot of different fairs, Ohio State Fair, Texas State Fair for a number of years. And so I would be on the road, you know, depending on the year, you know, but most years I'd be on the road at least 6 months. So that was tough, you know, being out there in Fairland. I'd have an RV and I'd travel around, but of course the money was exceptionally good. But the lifestyle was very, very challenging. And then when I eventually did get married and settled down in Vegas and bought a house and all of that, it was actually kind of the way it happened, because my agent also retired from the business. So I wasn't getting as many bookings in the fair industry at this point. And that's when I focused on my clown business, you know, and I've been doing birthday parties, you know, like crazy for the last few years. It's a wonderful business. So, you know, you can bring a little joy to a child and to the family, and it makes great history, great memories.
Are there any county or state fairs that you haven't done that you would like to do?
Well, there are so many state fairs and county fairs. I mean, Texas alone has over 500 fairs. I've worked a lot of fairs. In fact, this year I just did 2 county fairs. I actually went all the way into West Liberty, Iowa, and worked the Muscatine County Fair. And then I recently went up to Downey, Idaho, and worked a 4-day county fair up there.
Okay.
So I've done the smallest county fairs, which that was a pretty small one. And then, of course, I've done the largest ones as well. I did one year, the Texas State Fair ended up going 31 days. They had a whole month. And that was like a day job. I mean, I literally was there. It was crazy, So there's so many of the fairs that I haven't done. A lot of them, I mean, I can't say that one fair is necessarily different from the other because I'm not there on vacation. I'm there to work.
So tell me, Charlie, you do a lot of things. You do juggling, okay, and a bunch of other things. You walk on stilts and some other things. Where did you learn to do all this stuff?
Well, when I was a kid, I had too much energy, as a lot of kids do. And I actually ended up joining a kids' youth circus in South Africa. And it was really like a big playground, where they had trampolines and they had a tightrope and they had a flying trapeze rig, and they had this guy by the name of Keith Anderson, and he used to, help people learn about the circus industry, and basically it was like a big playground, and I used to go there and ride unicycles and juggle and walk on tightropes and slack ropes and all of that. And so that was my grounding. That's how I learned to do some of that stuff. And then, of course, when I got in the Army, my skills that I had learned, the juggling and the fire eating and all that sort of thing, that translated into me being hired into the entertainment unit, which was a great grounding. And then the real circus, of course, Barnum, the musical Barnum came along, and they were doing it in Johannesburg, South Africa, and the producers were looking for people who could teach actors and actresses how to ride a unicycle and walk on tightropes and juggle and make balloon animals and do all these kinds of interesting skills that I had acquired. And so I was a natural for that, so I got hired as a teacher for all these actors and actresses. And then after doing that season, I had met an American guy, and he had an opportunity for another Barnum production in Oregon, in the U.S., and he recommended me, and they ended up bringing me over to help train the community college students all how to do these circus skills as well. So it was a great grounding, and then, of course, by being around some of those people and being around my friend Bill Witter, I got involved with the Ringling Brothers Clown College, and they invited me in there in 1986 to teach. And, of course, I learned far more than I taught, but I had 50 students, and I got to teach stiltwalking. And I was around some of the great clowns like Frosty Little and Lou Jacobs and, all these, Steve Smith was the dean of Clown College at the time. And it was just a remarkable experience to be around these professionals, and many of them that I'd idolized, and heard about, of course, through word of mouth and the clown business. So how fortunate am I to have come through some of those. Then, of course, I got a gig at Disneyland working through Ringling Brothers Circus as well. So I literally worked in the happiest place on earth. And
that's cool. That's cool.
No, it was nice to be backstage and see that they had a certain etiquette when it came to working and certain rules and regulations. And a lot of times the people in the costumes are very well-trained dancers, and like Mickey Mouse often is a girl because they often move better and have more fluid in their movements. Or they're a gay guy or something, somebody who has some theatrics. So it definitely works well. But a great experience to be backstage there.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a long time. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm still doing it. In fact, I worked yesterday for a 7-Eleven, believe it or not. They had a back-to-school event, and they hired Charlie-the-Clown to be out there. And I was on stilts pretty much for 2 hours out in 110-degree temperature.
Oh,
but they did,
Charlie.
No, it was hot. I know it was really hot. But, when you're actually standing on stilts with a full wig on and full clown makeup, you are protected from the direct radiation of the sun. But let me tell you, I must have sweated out 2 gallons of moisture. Of course, I made sure I hydrated. And but I had a gig yesterday, and I've got 2 gigs tomorrow. I've got a 2-hour birthday party from 5 to 7, and then an 8 to 9 birthday party as well. So I'm still fairly active in the birthday party business. Almost every weekend, even during this pandemic, I've been pretty busy. A lot of the parties are in a backyard. A lot of them are, they want to be social distances, of course, because of what's going on. And sometimes they've even gone as a clown wearing a mask because they request it. I have been vaccinated, so I if they don't request me to wear a mask, I'll always have one in my pocket, but I won't put it on, unless they request it, because I am getting paid by them. But it is also on the other side of the coin. It's very scary because there are times where I'll arrive at a party and it'll be in a banquet hall inside, and there'll be 35 people inside there, and nobody's wearing a mask. And yeah, I can't turn around and say I'm not going to go in because I believe they should be wearing masks. It's not my job to do that as a performer. So knock on wood, I've been lucky. I haven't, been infected. And now that I'm somewhat, protected through the vaccination, so they say, hopefully I won't get it and die from it, and hopefully I won't pass it on to anyone else, because they say you can pass it on even if you get it. But that's a whole other subject.
You're not the only entertainer having a hard time. I deal with a lot of county fairs, state fairs. I mean, Countyfairgrounds.net has been around since 1998. All right, and we're basically a nonprofit, and the reason that I got into this is because county fairs, state fairs, events make people happy, and I like happy. Yes, happy is good. Okay,
I couldn't agree more. That's probably the most profound thing you've said, but it's the most obvious, but also the most important thing you've said. Being happy is a choice. It's a personal choice. And you can be in the bleakest of times, but you can also have a smile on your face.
Right. I feel really sorry for a lot of these fairs, though. They're having a lot of them are having a really, really bad time. I've been trying to help them as much as I can. So you're at the age where you should be considering retiring. Are you not considering that?
Well, I am definitely in the back of my mind. In the last, I should have started in my 20s, but in the last 7 or so years, I've actually been putting money into a Roth IRA retirement account, which is smart because a lot of self-employed entertainers don't do that. And so I do have some resources there, and also I managed to pay off the house and all that stuff, and I got no debt. So I do feel like I could start slowing down at some point if I chose to. But to be honest with you, I get such a joy out of going out there and working. This county fair that I just did up in Idaho, It was. I was actually a friend of mine. I don't know if you know Linda Hewlett. She works as a clown character. She actually had an unfortunate situation. Her mother has been ill for a long time, and her mother passed. So she called me up and said, "Hey, Charlie, I know you in Vegas, and it's about a 7-hour drive up there to Idaho, but I have this booking up there. But my mom just passed, and is there any way that you could go and stand in for me, and do it and do the gig?" And I said, I happen to be open this weekend, and absolutely, I will. Now, of course, she booked it for a little less money than what I normally get, but it wasn't about the money. It was about going up there and doing the job. And when I got to Idaho, the people were just delightful. They were just wonderful. And they had a little mini parade. Of course, I volunteered to be in the parade because, red, white, and blue on stilts works really well in a county parade. And and I normally, when I'm on the fairgrounds, I normally change my costume at least 3-4 times a day. And I go out there and do at least 3 sets of 1 hour each, strolling on stilts and sometimes doing balloons. But in this case, because I drove in, I took my clown show as well. So on their Kids Day, we actually announced it on the public address system, and then we brought all the kids into the park area, and I did a clown show for all of them. And it was a great feeling, great feedback. So that brings so much joy to me and also to others. I mean, how blessed are we if we actually love what we do and put a smile on other people's faces?
Right. Smiling is very important. I agree with that. So, is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't?
That's a very broad question. Of course, there's stuff.
Yeah.
But, I've done a lot of teaching over the years as well. I worked for this company in town here called Trapeze Las Vegas, and they used to have a kids camp every year. and sometimes 2 or 3 camps, during the summer. And I would go in there and teach, and I would teach kids, basic skills like tightrope walking or balloon twisting and a lot of other skills. Of course, we had trampolines and trapezes and stuff. Kind of harked back to my youth, when I was at the youth circus myself. And I've had a lot of joy out of that, teaching and passing on skills is just such an important part of life, I think. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, but if you can inspire somebody younger, your work is done in this world. And I think I've made a difference over the years, by teaching and helping other people learn the industry. I think that's made a huge difference. So it's hard for me to pinpoint one thing that I'd like to do, but I've been involved in a few TV commercials and a few TV shows and things, but I've never looked at it as a starring role, because as a juggler or as a clown or as a stiltwalker, you always end up being, part of the scene, but not necessarily the main guy. And if you wanted to be in the acting field, then of course that takes a whole different kind of training.
Right. I think it's more rewarding for everybody as a live sort of thing. So, okay, Charlie, do you have any last closing words for the audience? Are you still looking for bookings?
Yes, I am still looking for bookings. I'm actually listed on the internet, charle-the-clown.net, and that's CHARLIE. Sometimes people spell it with an EY, but it's Charlie with an IE, charle-the-clown.net. And that's mostly about my birthday party business. But I do go out on the fair industry, on the fair circuit, and I do a lot of county fairs still. Well, not a lot, not like I used to. But most times it requires a certain daily per diem, and then also I mostly ask for a motel room as well. And then I cover my expenses of traveling in a rental car or whatever. So yes, and my phone number and stuff, I'm sure you'll post that.
Give your phone number. Go ahead.
Sure, my number is 702-324-8501. 702-324-8501.
All right. Well, yes, this will go live, and maybe we'll get you on our front page. I really, really enjoyed talking to you, and we'll get you spread around, and then we'll get this interview spread around. And I'll let you know when it's posted. And I've really, really enjoyed talking to you, Charlie. You've been a joy.
Well, you too, and the feeling is mutual. All the best, okay?
You too, Charlie. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.